The exact identity of SCP-001 has not been confirmed due to the sheer number of possibilities for its origin. Numerous SCP researchers have tried their hand at categorizing and describing SCP-001 in the most accurate way possible. However, there are still many cases and many stories that could apply to SCP-001. When Day Breaks is a tale that was located in the journal of a past oracle. It is believed this tale, if true, was passed on to the oracle by an unknown source from the future. How exactly this information was passed on is still to be determined. Whether this is a warning to change our future is still a matter to be determined. Less than a week is left till the end of the SCP crowdfunding campaign by Paranormal Activity Books. What does this mean? It means that this is your last chance to get the limited edition of the SCP Foundation art books. Sure, you can always buy the regular edition on Amazon later. It has the same quality and the same list of SCP illustrations and beautifully stylized reports. But hey, just look at those animated dust jackets and thick embossed slipcase. You will barely have an opportunity to get your hands on it later. Moreover, if you pre-order the books or even just one book within this week, you will also get a pile of free bonuses. Yep, just for participating. If that wasn't enough, you can also enter an amazing giveaway for 30 vinyl toys of SCP-035. What are you waiting for? Go to the link in the description, reserve your copy, and experience the world of SCP like never before. Welcome back to SCP Exposed. Today we bring you SCP-001, an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario. It is uncertain whether the details of this possible future event are true or false. However, that is up to the viewer to decide. SCP-001's current classification is a polyon, meaning there is no hope of containment. SCP-001 is the designation given to the Sun after an event at unknown date resulted in 6.8 billion casualties within the first 24 hours. The SCP-001 effect does not seem to result from exposure to ultraviolet rays, but rather light in the visual spectrum. The effect is similarly present in moonlight. Upon contact with visible light produced by the sun, living organisms liquefy. Upon contact with visible light produced by the sun, living organisms liquefy at the point of contact, with the effect spreading until the entire organism is converted. Visually, this is reminiscent of melting wax. The time this takes is largely dependent on the level of exposure and size of the organism. Despite this restructuring, at no point do living organisms perish. Upon completion, these organisms, SCP-001-A, take on a gelatinous consistency. Plants typically remain physically unstable, yet are still capable of photosynthesis and still produce oxygen. Organisms capable of flight lose the capability to do so, and the bird population has reduced significantly due to death by impact. Other animals also react in the same way as humans when subjected to light. Humans, once morphed into SCP-001-A, retain their sentience, memories, and mobility, but are not the same as they once were. Due to their composition, instances of SCP-001-A that make contact with one another may combine and blend at the molecular level. This does not seem to cause any pain or distress to the instances, though the resulting bulk can inhibit movement. Since the SCP-001 event, most instances have congregated into such collectives, which seem to possess no maximum volume. They move by dragging themselves across the ground or by separating themselves into smaller, faster organisms. Due to its nature, SCP-001 cannot be contained. Personnel are encouraged to attempt to reach Site-19, the biggest secure facility of the Foundation, by any means at their disposal. Personnel with knowledge as to the whereabouts of the O5 Council are to relay this information to the Administrator. Survivors attempting to travel outdoors must fully cover their bodies in protective clothing, preferably several layers. Travel by foot should be limited as much as possible. Cities and man-made structures in general provide the greatest protection. Travel by air is preferable above all other methods. Personnel exposed to SCP-001 are to be considered lost. Compromised personnel are to be abandoned. Euthanization is not to be attempted. Collective instances of SCP-001-A that are of formidable size are to be avoided at all costs. Instances that have been subjected to freezing temperatures have proven immobile. Heat and electricity work as well, though they are less effective. Testing has revealed that SCP-001-A is relatively safe to consume. This is only to be considered as a last resort in the absence of other options, as SCP-001-A may reconstitute within the digestive system. Only small portions should be consumed at a time to prevent blockage. Currently, personnel stationed at Site-19 are pursuing the possibility of off-world colonization. Shuttles must be constructed to not allow light to penetrate the interior. This research, however, is still at the early stages of development. The administrator has sent out the following message to anyone still left alive out there. To those of you with families or, God forbid, children, I'm deeply, deeply sorry. You must push on. Do not let their deaths be in vain. We do still have time. Humanity may still have a future. Come to Site-19. We need all the hands we can get. Learn to embrace the darkness, friends. Fear the light. The Administrator. As of present, no one understands why or how SCP-001 occurred. It could be a sort of nuclear reaction, or a predisposed event, or some anomalous action. But whatever the case, it has resulted in the termination of 95% of all life on Earth. There is no hope to remain on this planet. Off-world habitation is the only option. Dr. Aigata and her partner, Ari, were stranded at Site-46 along with other members of their crew. Dr. Aigata left several recordings detailing their stay in the form of video logs. The following is her first log.
They've just been sitting out there this entire time, calling out to us, begging for us to come outside. The noise drew in more of them. There's this one mass that I'm sure must have a few dozen people, and God knows how many animals rolling around inside it. Screams and bleats and screeches and howls non-stop. Louder than all hell. They're not going to leave so long as they know we're down here. We managed to talk one of the D-Class members into going out, see if he couldn't draw them away. He was surprisingly okay with the plan. All he asked for was a gun. I think he was ready to die though. He just stepped out and didn't even put up a fight. Pretty soon, he became one of them. The director has a plan. There's an escape tunnel hidden in his office. A tram under the site will take us to a safe house. We should be able to start towards Site-19 from there.
For several weeks, there were no more logs. But then, one more was made, showing Dr. Aigata in clear distress, with blood stains on her chest. She had something in her hand, then held it up for the camera to see. It was a dismembered finger with a single wedding ring on it.
They took him. Ari, he's gone. The tunnel flowed in through the ceiling, dragging them into the light and ripping off their clothes and
Suddenly, Dr. Aigata stopped talking as a voice spoke out through her walkie-talkie.
Katie?
The voice said. Dr. Aigata froze, then whispered,
Ari, is that you? Where are you? Why can't I get back inside? Are you there?
Dr. Aigata began to cry as she realized this wasn't Ari at all, but a mere remnant of him.
Babe, it's all right. I'm all right, really. It's a bright, sunny day, and we're just wasting away down there.
Dr. Aigata sobbed and turned off the walkie-talkie. Ari's wet, slimy voice cut off. For many days, there was still no update to Dr. Aigata's log, but then, finally, Aigata made one last recording, which continued as follows.
On the recording, Aigata could be seen seated in her bunker. The metal door visible in the background was jolting and shaking like crazy. Voices emerged from behind the door, and one could be distinguished as Ari's. I know it's not him,
said Dr. Aigata in a panic.
It's not him. It sounds like him, but it's not. They're just trying to get me out, but I won't fall for their tricks. I won't, even if I want to be with him so badly.
Suddenly, a loud crash ensued and the door of the bunker collapsed. The blob of organisms appeared in its doorway and they lunged at Dr. Aigata. The camera recording ended instantaneously with the last frame image of Dr. Aigata leaning back with the blob in front of her. When zoomed in, a hand missing a single finger, the ring finger, could be discerned. After this incident, it was presumed Dr. Aigata was deceased or turned. This seemed to be confirmed once an update was made to Dr. Aigata's logs. This was not a video recording, but instead a written poem. Foundation personnel theorize this was an entry made by Dr. Aigata's turned body. Saffron skies raise the blazing sun. A chance encounter. Awkward displays. One day, my love, we'd be as one. Now you lie here, the life in you gone. In the dark outside of her rays, crimson skies bear the torch, our sun. Today, my love, we'll be as one. This was the end of the journal owned by the Oracle. No more information was disclosed. It is uncertain whether the presumed survivors of the future managed to develop a plan of escape. Foundation personnel have no idea how this information was passed back into the past, and if it even was for that matter. This whole case could be made up by the Oracle, or it could be 100% true and the fate of humanity could be doomed. O5 personnel recommend the Foundation prepare anyway, should a case of SCP-001 occur. What did you guys think of that SCP case? Do you have any theories on what SCP
Everybody wants to rule the